The African history is among the oldest history in the world. It shouldn't be a surprise that the place is full of some great leaders and kings working their ways into building a better world. Even though some of them may not be very well known, that doesn't count them off of being some of the greatest African kings. Here are 10 known and little known African kings. Number 10. Askia the Great. Askia the Great was born as Muhammad Touré and went on to make the Songhai Empire the greatest and largest empire that West Africa ever saw. He gained the name Askia, meaning the forceful one, after the battle at Agok, where he defeated Sunni Ali and took the throne from Sunni Bur's would-be successor. Once he took power, he consolidated it by dividing the state into 4 principal provinces, each run by a viceroy of his choosing. To ensure their loyalty, he took a daughter from each of his vassal chiefs as wives and married off each of his own daughters to governors and dignitaries to ensure that each high-placed official was in some way related to him, which tied his fate with theirs. Sudan flourished in his rule, however he went blind in his old age. He kept it a secret by spreading rumors that if anyone looked him in the eye they would be cursed, and had his brother act as a spokesman in his stead. Unfortunately, word of his blindness got out eventually. One of his sons, named Faria Mosa, found out and forced him to abdicate his throne. Another of his sons eventually took the throne and forced Askia, one of the greatest African kings, into exile. Fortunately for him, he had one loyal son. Together they retook the throne of the Songhai and moved back into the capital. Askia saw out the rest of his days in the palace, living to the ripe old age of 80. He was buried in Gao, and his grave is now a World Heritage Site. Number 9. Sundiata Keita. Destined to become one of the greatest African kings, at an early age Sundiata Keita and his mother were forced to flee their homeland of Xynga out of fear that this half-brother would assassinate them. While they were away, the Suso king invaded Xynga, prompting Sundiata Keita to return and free his people from their rule. Having defeated the Suso host, he went on to expand his empire, stretching it across Ghana and towards the gold fields of the Senegal River Valley. His empire came to be known as the Great Mali Empire. He reigned for 25 years and died under suspect circumstances after an accident in his capital. Number 8. Shu Shu. Shu Shu the first founded the Sutu nation, which is now known as Lesotho. He earned his reputation as a daring cattle raider and was generous to allies and enemies alike. Once he took the throne for his tribe, he used military prowess and diplomatic ingenuity to repel African rivals to the southeast and colonial invasions from the British and the Boers. Defeating the colonial invaders proved to be difficult, so he used diplomatic means by inviting French missionaries into the land, although he still had to spend a large majority of his time repelling the Boers and the British. His resistance to colonial rule was largely successful, however the Long War took its toll on him and his resources, and in 1887 he was forced to give up large swathes of his land. Today Shu Shu is counted among the most known African kings. Number 7. Osei Tutu. Osei Tutu inherited the throne of the Ashanti Empire from his father. He learned about politics while serving in the royal court from an early age, where he won political support of established military generals to take the throne after the death of his father. When he got the throne, he went on to conquer the Dakiara kingdom as well as other neighboring states to make his empire the most powerful state in the region. Luck was on his side, as the Akin-speaking people of his region were already in favor of creating a unified state. He took advantage of this by drafting a constitution where he outlined the Asantehene people as the supreme leader of the Ashanti Empire, with the Golden Stool as the center of power and each of the local chiefs deriving their power from this seat. The empire that he started went to be prosperous for 200 years until they were defeated by British colonialists. Number 6. Sunni Ali Bur. Majority of the expansion of the Songhai Empire took place under the rule of Sunni Ali Bur, one of the cruelest African kings, over 28 years. He conquered Timbuktu in 1492 along with other important trading towns of Western Sahara and Central Sudan. He saw the Arab Muslims as invaders into his land and defeated the Mandinka people who allied with them. He refused to employ Muslim scholars in his government and came down hard on Muslims in Timbuktu who resisted his rule. Ali Bur conquered the surrounding areas with apparent ease, however he was never able to win the hearts of his people. They hated him for being a cruel dictator, and accused him of not being a true Muslim. Number 5. Yassa Santo. British colonialists came to the Gold Coast at the end of the 19th century and posed the greatest threat that the Ashanti Empire had ever known. They demanded that the Ashanti people surrender their symbolic seat of power, the Golden Stool, to the colonial governor Frederick Hodgson. Facing the might of the British Empire, many of the Ashantans were ready to submit to British rule. However, Yassa Santo, the gatekeeper of the Golden Stool, would not entertain the idea. She came forward and said to them, "Is it true that the bravery of the Ashanti is no more? I almost believe it. It cannot be. If you, the men of Ashanti, will not go forward, then we, the women, will. We will fight the white man. We will fight until the last of us falls on the battlefield." Yassa Santo went forward with an army of 5,000, and even though the British captured then deported her, her brave actions went on to set a fire under the Ashanti people that brought about the return of Prempeh and fueled the fight for independence, which they eventually got in 1957. Number 4. Bahanzan Ho Bao, the King Shark. Called the King Shark among the Sea of African kings, Bahanzan was the most powerful king in Western Africa in the last years of the 19th century and was so revered it is said that his spit was not allowed to touch the ground. His surname means strength and wisdom. However, he was unable to prevent the French from colonizing his lands. The French defeated him using psychological warfare by taking down the Dahomey and sacred trees in the Zo and Yum forests, then advanced their armies from Porto Novo and up the Yum Valley until they were close enough to attack the capital of Abomey. In 1894 he had no choice but to surrender himself to Colonel Dodds. He may have been defeated in the end, but he did not make it easy for the French. Number 3. Queen Xynga. Among the African kings, here lies a queen. Xynga gained a reputation for being a ruthless and powerful leader of the Ndongo and Matamba kingdoms in what is now modern-day Angola. She fought primarily against the Portuguese colonialists who were after Luanda in order to have a steady stream of African slaves. She refused to give up to the Portuguese without a fight and made her kingdom a commercial powerhouse that could go toe-to-toe with the Portuguese colonies in the area. She enlisted runaway slaves and Portuguese-trained Africans to build up her power in Matamba, which she developed into an economic powerhouse. She died in 1661 at the age of 81 and left behind a powerful kingdom that resisted colonial rule for close to 200 years. Number 2. Queen Mother Nandi. Known as the Sweet One, Nandi grew up in a culture where women were not allowed to speak their minds. As the third wife of Sezengakana, ruler of the Zulu chiefdom, she was not recognized as a queen and her son was not recognized as an heir to the throne. This led to her having a difficult relationship with her husband, who eventually drove her away from the court. She left to seek refuge with her sister Dengiswayo, and even there her son Shaka was resented for his claim to the throne. Dengiswayo supported Shaka's claim to the throne and helped him assassinate his half-brother Segwiana to claim the Zulu throne. He then built a royal household with over 1,400 huts and declared his mother Nandi to be the Queen of Queens. When Nandi died in 1827, Shaka Zulu was inconsolable. Tradition held that when a person of Nandi's note died, then several servants were to be maimed or killed. Shaka Zulu took this tradition a little too far, and anyone who was not felt to be grieving enough was put to death. Some people in the nation used this as an excuse to settle old scores, and 7,000 people were killed. Number 1. Afonso I, King of Congo. Afonso I, born as Nzinga Mbembe before being baptized, was a Portuguese vassal king in the region. He oversaw the trade between Congo and Portugal, which reached heights that his predecessors could only hope for. Congo's Portuguese rulers were especially happy with his efforts to convert the region to Christianity. He did this by welcoming priests and missionaries to the area, and he burned traditional arts the Portuguese found to be offensive. The only issue that he had with the Portuguese was that their traders and technicians did not respect the laws of the land in Congo or follow the king's instructions. He asked the King of Portugal, Manuel I, to send in officials that would be charged with controlling the Portuguese nationals in the Congo, as he could not discipline them himself without risking reprisals. The officials were sent, however they failed to have an impact, as the Portuguese proved to be interested only in their own personal gain. Afonso I's naivety in dealing with the Portuguese led to the eventual downfall of his land. However, he is remembered as a ruler who had the vision to build Congo's infrastructure.